So we are continuing this morning with our our August series based on the co-creation process and power of intention. And we set 6 very powerful intentions for our community in August. And this month we are delving more deeply into each one of those in an exploration of how we can experience those from the inside out. We teach the principles of successful living from the inside out. So how do we experience these 6 intentions from within personally and then see them reflected back to us as an expression of our community? That's really what we're looking at. And then last week we started with the first one, which was growing in sustainable ways, and looked at how we were growing in sustainable ways and maybe how we weren't. We looked at our overarching purpose of balance for ourselves and our community. And today we're going to be looking at the second intention, which is inform, invite, educate, and empower. Inform, invite, educate, and empower. As I looked through my notes, which I've done a lot of, I don't know about the rest of you that were in that process, but there was so much there, so much rich stuff, that as I've gone back through them, and we had those intentions that we were listing, I had made notes in the margin. And the notes, I began to relate each one of the intentions to the categories. They fell into general categories for me. And they were growth, marketing, retention, culture, product, and prosperity. I've often heard people say, yeah, we're a church, but we're still a business. And I agree with that. We are a nonprofit 501(c) business, and we're a spiritual center, and our business is the transformation of lives and the revelation of Spirit in, through, and as us. But we also have to have some of those underlying operational things that need to happen. And that's part of our intentions, too, that we're going to see comes out of this as we continue through the month. So the categories may be familiar to us, the intentions, rather, may be more familiar in these categories that you may be more familiar with from a business life and a business transaction. So again, last week we looked at the growing in sustainable ways, and today the informing, inviting, educating, and empowering. If we put that in the first person, I am informing, inviting, educating, and empowering. I am. What does that look like? What does that look like? I believe that as members and stewards and attendees of a spiritual center, that we are all ambassadors of it, aren't we? We are all ambassadors of that. Or I think about the Sky Harbor. Anybody flown lately? Anybody flown? And I don't know about you, but I find that Sky Harbor is one of the most friendly airports around. And they have that navigators program, those folks that wear those purple t-shirts that are lending assistance, right? They lend assistance to travelers throughout the airport. And they've replicated this program in downtown Phoenix, and they've got volunteers on the streets there to help folks find the attractions and the different things in the downtown area. So the city of Phoenix is doing some really cool things to be helpful. And then I just saw this also, that at the airport they've added dogs, navigator buddies. And imagine being trapped in an airport, delayed, bumped off your flight, bad weather someplace you can't get out, and have this guy come up and just start saying, hey, how you doing? You'd probably start feeling better, wouldn't you? Yeah, probably start feeling better. And I think it's rubbed off on TSA here a little bit too, because I find our TSA folks a little more friendly than some airports that we go through. So there's a consciousness that's happening at Sky Harbor Airport through this process and this program. So if this center has made a difference in your life, or the Science of Mind teaching has made a difference in your life, how can you be an ambassador for our center for this teaching? How can you do that out in your life and in your world? I believe that anybody that's on a spiritual journey, a spiritual path, has a ministry. Doesn't mean that you have to have a license, go through a lot of years of school. But I think we all have a ministry, and as practitioners, which we are all practitioners in practicing these science of mind tools, practices, and principles, so we're all practitioners, I think that we're all called to this teaching for a reason. We've all been called for a reason because, I don't know about you, but I don't really believe in accidents. I don't believe in accidents. I think there was a reason. Think of the very first New Thought church or Science of Mind center that you attended. The very first one you ever walked into. Think about that experience. What resonated with you? What did you like? What kept you coming back? What keeps you studying and practicing today? There's something in that. There's a calling to this work that we have, and then how do you practice it each and every day in your life? As I looked into this second intention that we have for our community, and remember it's under that purpose word that we came up with for balance for our community and for each one of us, and then the vision was open to all and inspiring to everyone. So that's kind of where we started. And then now today I want us to focus on the individual words. That's a long string of words that we have, isn't it, in the second intention? So let's break it down into some bite-sized pieces, a little bit like our teaching symbol, which is the pieces and parts of the wholeness of God so that we can understand it in our human capacities. So the first one is to inform. The first one is to inform. And when we were talking about it from the community perspective, we were talking about how do we let the rest of the world know we're here? How do we let the rest of the world know that we're here? But let's bring that down into the personal area of I inform. How do I let folks know? How do I let folks know? What is science of mind? Anybody ever ask you that? Got a quick answer right off the top of your head? Yeah. There's a lot of words you got to say, isn't there? What's your elevator speech, the way that you describe it? What's your elevator speech? It's a way of life. It's a way of living, isn't it? It's a way of life. On the front of the textbook, it says it's a philosophy of faith and a way of living. We fall within the umbrella of what's called New Thought, as a religious, if you will, New Thought theology, because we came about, established in 1927. So it's beyond the old thinking, the old theologies, pre-science, right? Wasn't there a lot of fighting about science? And what was that guy's name, Galileo? Wasn't there a little conflict between him and the church a long, long, long time ago? And now New Thought is saying, hey, science and mind, spirit, inform. So it's a new way of thinking. I love the way Dr. Michael Beckwith says, New Thought, ancient wisdom. Because if you look at the science of mind, and the more that you study it, the more that you realize it comes a lot out of the Greeks, Socrates, Aristotle, 500 BC and beyond. So it is a compilation. Ernest Holmes, the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living, the author of The Science of Mind, he says religious science is a correlation of laws of science, opinions of philosophy, and revelations of religion applied to human needs and the aspirations of humankind. He also stated that it's not based on any authority of established beliefs, but rather on what it can accomplish for the people who practice it. What it can accomplish. It's not one person's opinion. If you think about the Quran, it came through Muhammad. If you think about Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy, that was her teaching. Ernest Holmes never said, this is my teaching. He says, here's what I know. Go prove these principles for yourselves. I would rather see a student of this teaching prove these principles than know all of its words. So how do you describe it? Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living is a place that I learn positive principles of spiritual living and discover a greater understanding of my relationship to God, my relationship to Source, my relationship to Spirit, whatever the words might be for you. Use the words that flow for you on what this means to you. The second word is to invite. The second word is to invite. So once people know what we are and what we do and who we are, how do we invite them into our community? How do we invite them in? Are you comfortable inviting other people into your spiritual community? Or is religion and politics off base? You can't talk about those things. But think about some of the most powerful conversations you've ever had. I would bet they were around religion and politics. Because you get to know what someone is thinking, what they believe, right? And when we can do that from a loving, open, inquisitive place, and not a place of conflict, not a place of making right and making wrong, but a place of receiving and learning, wow, we can learn a lot about each other, can't we? We can learn a lot about each other. So do you invite family, friends, business associates, strangers to your spiritual community to share how this community, this teaching has impacted your life? If you don't do it in person, visit our website. We have a wonderful website that Joe has created, and it's very easy to navigate around. It's got tons of information. We're always putting new stuff on it. Invite them to the website. Do you have any of these little guys in your wallet or purse? It was funny, I was changing purses this morning in my usual bag I bring, and if anybody needs any, but I realized, okay, walk the talk, lady. You're not giving out enough of them. You're not giving out enough of them. If I have collected that many in my bag, I'm not giving enough, right? So, busted myself. So you can hand out those cards. Back issues of Science of Mind magazine. It's a wonderful publication. It's been around for 100 years. If you've got one in your car, your purse, and somebody says, well, what do you guys do at your spiritual center? Take this home and read it. Let me share a magazine with you. Let me share a magazine with you. Easy. Encourage them to look at our website, watch a talk, see what it is that we do around here. Have you visited our website? Have you looked around? Do you know what's on there? Are you on our contact list? Do you get our weekly email? Can we reach out to you if something important happens in the community that we feel like everybody needs to know about? We don't send a lot of emails. We send one on Saturday mornings. But our members have a list that we can contact immediately if something comes up. Are you on our mailing list? Number 3, educate. Educate. Okay, so we've told everybody about the community. We've invited them to come and play with us. And they're going to be hearing things perhaps for the very first time in a very new way. Again, remember the first center you ever attended. If you've never been exposed to anything in the New Thought realm before, you may have been a little surprised. I know the first time that I went to New Vision Center, and Reverend Michelle said that we were spirit in form, I just looked for the lightning bolt. How can she say that? I'd come out of the Methodist tradition where God was some guy in the sky with a long white beard. Right? And that there was fear in that. I had never heard that spirit lived within me. I had never been told that I was really a child of God. I'd only been told there was one of those. So we need to educate. We use jargon around here, don't we? We use jargon around here. We try not to, but we do. It becomes part of what we do. But I find the more that I study and practice, that the science of mind becomes more ingrained in who I am, and just more of my language and the way that I talk and I show up. I find myself looking for the spiritual truth of a situation, wherever I might be. I am not infallible. I think I told you a story on myself last week about that, didn't I? A little judgment I had going on about standing in the bank line for a little bit longer than I wanted to. So it happens, but we have the tools to bring ourselves out of it. A lot of times I'll hear someone going into fear about something that's could possibly happen, how it could go wrong. It's like, okay, what if we focused on how we want it to be, our preference? What if we focus on our preference instead of the fear of what could happen, how it could go wrong, how it could break down? And then the win-win. That's been my favorite, to see that transition. I hear those words in my real estate office now because I've used them so long and so many times around them that they are starting to use them. Around here we say God is all there is. There I say it's a win-win. Because when we elevate any situation to its highest level of consciousness, and if it's all God, God is not ever in conflict with God, right? So it's always win-win. So we can always find a solution. We can always find an answer. We go into collaboration. We go into consensus building, cooperation rather than conflict. These are the ways that we educate, that we can educate outside of these walls, outside of these doors, outside of Sunday morning in our lives. By taking these principles and applying them in our everyday living. We can give spirit room to move in our life, room to work when we can elevate to that higher level. And I call this talking the talk of science of mind. Our fourth and final word in this whole string of intention is empower. Empower. So we've told them about us. We've invited them to come. We've educated them on what we do, and now we're empowering. Now we're empowering. And we use the word empower in our vision statement for the community. It was one of the first words that we used when we formed it in 2015. Empowering possibilities. Empowering possibilities. So I looked it up again, just to kind of check in, see what it means. And it says to make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. Make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. And I think that's a definition of science of mind, isn't it? Yeah. I was really struck by that because that's what we do. We recognize that we have the power. We are responsible. It's easy to blame something outside of ourselves, but boy, it's empowering when we know we can control it ourselves, isn't it? We can manage and design our own lives ourselves. When we recognize that we are the magnificence of God in form, that we are always connected in that oneness, in that place of wholeness, always, that's empowering. That's empowering. Science of Mind teaches us to become stronger, more confident, to claim that birthright that I didn't know when I first found this teaching, that I am a daughter of the divine, that you are sons and daughters of the divine. We all are. Made in the image and likeness. Personally, I'm glad I didn't get that long gray beard. Thank you, Keith. Thank you, Keith. I like how Neil deGrasse Tyson puts it. He's the astrophysicist. He says we're made of stardust. Because science has now proven that there's all one substance, right? When we go down smaller and smaller and smaller into the levels, there's only one substance, and we're all made from the same stuff. And we call that around here God stuff. So how do we empower? How do we empower? How do you empower? Anybody heard of Kempton Hotels? Kempton Hotels, yeah. There's one in downtown Phoenix that flies the flag, I guess you say, in the hotel business of Palomar Hotel. Well, there's a story of one of the hotels in New York City. Kempton has a policy of being family friendly. And it doesn't mean they attract kids like Disneyland, that kind of thing, but they're family friendly. They'll do things like put hula hoops in the workout facilities, the fitness room, so that the kids have something to do while the parents are doing the weights or whatever. And one of the things that they have is they will put a goldfish bowl, little fish, in the room while you're staying there, if you've got children, to entertain the kids. So there's a family that checks into the hotel, and the kids are all excited. They're in the elevator with the bellman, and they're riding up the elevator. They're talking about getting to see Speedy again. They can't wait to see Speedy again because they think it's the same fish, right? Yeah. And they're riding up, and the bellman, Josh, goes, get into the room, and they walk in, and the kids are like, "Where's Speedy?" He says, "I'm so sorry. We don't have that program at this particular location." And of course, the kids were heartbroken. The parents are going, I get to listen to him whine now, all right. So, a little later in the afternoon, the family leaves to go to dinner, and Josh notices them leaving. Well, he happens to know that the closest Kempton's about 1.5 miles away, and they have the program. So he runs, literally, the 1.5 miles to the next Kempton, borrows a goldfish, rushes it back up to the room, and puts Speedy in the room for the family. So when they came back from dinner, the kids, you can imagine their excitement and delight to find Speedy had returned to their room. Now, Josh had been empowered by Kempton Hotels because Kempton has this brand, if you will, that says customers first, families first. You know, we take care of them. We do these things. So Josh felt an empowerment to provide that level of customer care to that family and run down the street and borrow a goldfish. Now, the family will probably never know that it was Josh. For them, Kempton provided the goldfish, didn't it? Kempton provided the goldfish. So how can we as a spiritual center create a culture of empowerment? A couple of weeks from now, we're going to be talking about culture because that's one of our intentions, actually, is the culture of our center. But I love the story of an employee feeling empowered enough by management to take that step on his own to make a guest happy. Isn't that a good story? It's a good story. And I think how we do it is through our own empowerment, through this teaching and our practice of the science of mind, and proving the principles in our own life. Walking the talk, right? We talk about talking the talk, which talks science of mind. Now we're walking the talk, which is walking these principles out and using them in our daily activities to transform our own lives. To see greater abundance and prosperity, to see healthy relationships, to see happy careers, better health, deeper connection to spirit. That's how we empower. Because when you are living that life, all your friends, all your family, everybody you run into sees that. And you empower them because they now see it's possible. You become a possibility. Isn't it easier to know, oh, well, they did it, so I can do it? When we think we're the only one, when we think we're the pioneer, you know the definition of pioneer in real estate? It's the one with the arrows in the back. That's why there's not a lot of new stuff that happens. Because people are afraid to be that pioneer, the first person out there. But when you're proving the principles and walking the talk and talking the talk and you're out there in the world and an empowered person, people go, wow, what green juice are you drinking, right? It's like, no, it's my spiritual center. Want to come with me on Sunday? That's how we do it. That's how we do it. Your living an empowered life will empower the lives of those around you because you have the courage to demonstrate and share these principles of successful living. We are examples. We are examples. So our ambassadorship and our stewardship of this community for each of us happens inside and outside of our community, doesn't it? It's when we're here together on Sunday mornings with each other, those we know and our new friends that are just visiting with us. It's connecting, isn't it? I mean, let's face it, there's a bajillion things on the internet you can watch on your phone and be spiritually inspired. But you can't have the connection that you get in a spiritual community. You can't build the relationships, the friendships. You can't get the support that you can get in a spiritual community. And that's why people come. That's why people come. And that's how we're good ambassadors of that. Because I believe that the world is looking for connection. I believe there's a correlation between what we see on the national level as a decline in church attendances across all denominations in the last 40 years and what we see reflected in society. I think when we come back into community, we can begin to heal. When we come back into community. Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, God in me is united with God in all. It's the idea of namaste, isn't it? The idea of namaste. It's all one, and it is through, in, and as everyone. Not everyone, but everyone. Let's take a look at our practicing the principles and see how we might be able to take this home this week. Run through them again. The first is to inform. We're ambassadors. We're ambassadors for this powerful teaching that's impacted our lives. How do you describe Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living? How do you describe science of mind? Use mine, use your own. Start a conversation with someone. We know for a fact, Joe, is this true? Word of mouth and referral are the best forms of advertising? Absolutely. You all know that in your lives. If you get a referral from somebody that says, yeah, I've used such and such or so and so, don't you feel more confident in calling that person for that service? Yeah. Number 2, invite. By personal invitation. I remember my first experience. I had a friend that I had met, and I had over the course of many months begun to talk about spirituality, and she was sharing with me where she attended. And finally one day she said, what are you doing tomorrow? And I said, oh, I don't know. And she goes, good, I'll pick you up at 9 o'clock. And where are we going? She goes, we're going to church. And I went, oh, okay, that'll be fun. I haven't done that in a long time. So sure enough, she picked me up 9 o'clock, and we went to the center. And I have been going for almost 20 years now. Never stopped. So whose life can you impact? Trust me, 20 years ago, I never thought I'd be standing up here. Whose life may you touch? May you impact? So we can do it by personal invitation. You can do it by your invited card. You can do the What About Us flyers that we've got on the table. Science of Mind magazine. Check out our website, ScottsdaleCSL.org. See what's happening there. We've got a Facebook page. Did you know that? Anybody else have a Facebook page? Nobody? Nobody has a Facebook page? Really? Wow. Thank you, Jennifer. Did you know that you can check in? That you're at Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living every Sunday morning? We can. You can do that. Do you know you can write a review on there? Yeah, you can write a review on there about your experience here. Hopefully it's a good one. So lots of ways that we can make impacts in and on social media. Lots of ways we can do that. Number 3, educate. Talk the talk of science of mind. Now, my invitation to you this week on this one is actually something to do. And that is to pick a principle. Pick one principle this week, that you can focus on and use. We know that what we focus on expands in our life. And I guarantee you, if you pick one principle that you want to focus on to be able to teach to someone else in your life, the universe will provide you the opportunity. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. Maybe it is win-win, which is the translation of God is all there is. Maybe there's a conflict someplace in your life, in your business, in your family, with friends, the side of the road. And you can apply that principle and say, hey, how can we work this out? How can everybody win here? Or maybe it is what we focus on expands. Maybe it's circulation. Maybe you look for ways in your life that you can circulate good through a generous offer, through kindness, through compassion. Any way of circulating anything. Clean out your closet, donate some clothes, clean out the garage, right? Circulate and see how that law of circulation works and what comes to backfill that void that you've created in your life. Maybe it's balance. Our purpose word. Maybe it's balance. I'm going to demonstrate balance this week. That feels good, doesn't it? Maybe I'll do that one myself. So pick one and try it. It's an experiment. It's an experiment in consciousness. We did this with Pam Grout's work early on, about 3 years ago, where we all focused on a particular type of car. And it worked. It was crazy how much it worked for the entire class that had come together. So try this. I challenge you for that one this week. Number 4, empower. Walk the talk. Be like Josh. Be like Josh the bellman. Allow your life to be a demonstration of this teaching. Allow your life to be a demonstration of this teaching. It's empowered. Science of Mind has empowered many of us. Me, I know many of you. It has empowered so many of us in our lives to live richer, happier, more fulfilling, more rewarding lives. Pay it forward. Pay it forward. Maybe that's what you circulate this week. Cover 2. 2 birds with one stone, is that what they say? Cover 2 of them. So we can use these practices and principles just for ourselves, right? We can use them just for ourselves. That's completely allowed. Or we can take them out into our world and let them demonstrate in and around us. I know, again, the more that I study and practice, the more difficult it is to not do that automatically. The more difficult it is to not do that automatically. So since we teach and believe that what we focus on expands in our lives, we're going to once again, I'm going to invite you to state with me the affirmation of the realization step of our Sacred Covenant prayer. The entire prayer is available in a PDF format on our website, which is scottsdalecsl.org, and you can get a copy of the entire prayer. But this is the realization or the affirmation statement of it, and I would invite you to affirm with me now if you would. I am growing in sustainable ways. I am informing, inviting, educating, and empowering. I am exercising effective visitor and congregant retention. I am cultivating a culture of fellowship and participation. I am creating an exceptional live music ministry. I am being fully supported and abundantly prospered in the fulfillment of these intentions. And so it is. Thank you. So I want to close this out this morning with one last quote from our founder, Dr. Holmes. He says, "We know there is a power far greater than we are. There is a love that casts out fear and a faith that overcomes all obstructions. We must permit ourselves through affirmative thinking to enter into this power and this love with complete confidence. If we can believe that the Spirit within us, God, makes perfect and happy the way before us, we then enter into conscious union with everything that lives and commune with the Spirit in all people and all things. There then develops an intimate relationship to the presence and the power which controls everything, and we know we can trust it. And we know we can trust it." So thank you for being with us today. If you were with us for the very first time, we again welcome you. We hope that you have found us to your liking and that you will come back and see us again. Our welcome table, our welcome committee is outside to the right. They will be happy to answer any questions. And we have another gift of appreciation because we know you've got up and made the effort to come and to spend your time with us this morning, and we appreciate you doing that and being with us. very much so. So I would ask you now if you would join me in an affirmative prayer. How good it is to come together in the one, recognizing that there is only one power, presence, life. And that life is God. It is the source of all that is. It is the infinite creator, creativity, and creation. It is love, it is harmony, it is peace, it is joy. And it is so much more than any of the words that I could ever come up with, for it is infinite. And it is difficult for the human mind to imagine infinite. But I do know that I am a manifestation of it, as each and every one of us is, for there is only that one divine substance. And it is in it that I live, move, and have my being, as it is in, through, and as me, and has its movement and its being in that one mind. And as I know that truth for myself, I know that truth for each one of us present here today. For we are all sons and daughters of the Most High. As Joanne so beautifully said in her prayer, we are all cells in that body of God. So from that place of knowingness, I speak my word for and about each of us, knowing that we do inform, invite, educate, and empower our own lives and the lives of those around us through this beautiful teaching that we call Science of Mind, through this beautiful community that we call Scottsdale Center for Spiritual Living, this family in which we all exist. And I know for anyone that has anything on their heart this day that they seek a little extra prayer support around, as they bring that into their awareness, that I know that whatever needs to be revealed, healed, provided, clarified, is done so now. For the healing work begins within each one of us, in knowing the truth, accepting the truth, proclaiming the truth. So it is with a grateful heart that I simply release this into the activity of mind, knowing that it is done. And I invite you to join me as we anchor together and affirm this prayer by saying, and so it is.